You must be new here, so you probably don't know the rules. Let me teach you, Brett Callahan said, then slapped Maya Williams hard across the face. If you want to survive here, you'd better learn your place. Maya's head turned with the impact. The hallway went still. 6 officers stood within view. 2 near the break room, 1 by the bulletin board, another beside the records counter. Kyle Mercer leaned against the wall behind Callahan, arms crossed, his mouth pulled into a crooked grin. Nobody stepped forward. Maya slowly turned her face back. Her cheek burned, but her hands stayed loose at her sides. Her eyes locked on Callahan's. She did not blink. She did not raise her voice. She did not give him the scene he wanted. Callahan watched her closely. His smirk faltered for half a second, then came back harder. "That's better," he said. "Now you're listening." Maya said nothing. The silence made him bolder. He glanced at the officers around them, looking for approval. A few looked away. One lowered his eyes. Mercer gave a soft laugh under his breath. Callahan stepped closer. His boots stopped inches from Maya's. He tilted his head, studying her face like he expected tears, fear, or rage. He found none. That irritated him. "You people always come in here thinking the badge makes you equal," he said. His voice dropped, but everyone nearby could still hear it. "It doesn't. Not in this house." Maya's jaw tightened once. That was the only sign the words landed. "Move," she said. Callahan's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me? You're blocking the hall." Mercer pushed off the wall. "Careful, Williams." Maya did not look at him. Callahan smiled again, but there was less confidence in it now. He had expected her to shrink or swing. She had done neither. Her calm was beginning to work on him. His nostrils flared. His hand flexed at his side. "You don't give orders here," he said. "I gave you a chance to step back." That changed his face. The muscles in his cheek tightened. The skin around his eyes hardened. He leaned in, lowering his voice until it became almost a growl. "You just got here. Don't make me teach you twice." Then he lifted his hand again. Maya moved before the slap could land. Her knee came up short and fast, striking the outside of Callahan's thigh with controlled force. It was not meant to injure him. It was meant to take his balance. It worked. Callahan's leg dipped. His shoulder hit the wall. His face twisted, more shocked than hurt. The sound that left him was sharp and angry, cut off before it became a curse. The officers in the hallway froze harder than before. Mercer lunged toward Maya. "Hey, back off." Maya turned into him, caught his wrist, and stepped slightly to the side. His forward motion stopped at once. She rotated his hand just enough to lock his arm in place without forcing it past the point of control. Mercer's smirk vanished. "Easy," Maya said. Her voice was low, steady. Mercer stopped moving. Maya held him for one breath, then released him. He pulled his hand back fast and took 2 steps away, trying to make it look like his choice. Callahan pushed himself fully upright. His face had gone red. His eyes moved from Maya to Mercer, then to the officers watching from the hallway. He knew what they had seen. He also knew none of them were eager to say it out loud. Maya adjusted the folder in her hand. She did not rub her cheek. She did not smile. "This is a police station," she said. "Start acting like it." Callahan stared at her. The words hit him worse than the knee strike. His mouth tightened. His pride had taken the real blow. He had slapped the new black female officer in front of his own people, and instead of breaking, she had stopped him cleanly, calmly, and without losing control. That made the hallway dangerous for him. One officer shifted his weight. Another looked toward the ceiling camera mounted near the corner. Callahan noticed the movement. His eyes flicked up, then back to Maya. For the first time, his anger showed something underneath it. Calculation. Maya saw it in the way his expression changed. The smirk was gone now. His lips pressed flat. His eyes narrowed, not with simple hate, but with suspicion. She had not reacted like he expected. She had not panicked. She had not begged for help. She had handled him like someone trained to handle men who used fear as a weapon. Callahan took one slow step toward her again. Careful this time. "You think you're smart," he said. Maya held his stare. "I think you should stop talking." Mercer looked between them, uneasy now. Brett. Callahan ignored him. Where'd you transfer from again? Detroit. Right. He nodded once, but the nod was not agreement. It was a decision forming. Clean record, nice file, big city experience. And now they drop you here. Maya said nothing. Callahan leaned close enough that only she could hear the next words clearly. Who sent you? Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. Before she could answer, a door opened at the far end of the hall. Captain Diane Morrison stepped out. She took in the scene quickly. Callahan against the wall, Mercer backing away, Maya standing centered and calm. Every officer in the hallway pretending they had not been watching. Morrison's face hardened as she looked at Maya, but her eyes flicked to Callahan for a fraction of a second. A look that passed so fast anyone else would have missed it. "What is going on here?" she asked. No one answered. Callahan recovered first. He straightened his shirt and forced out a laugh. "Nothing, Captain. Just welcoming Officer Williams to Rivergate." Morrison looked at him for a long second, then turned to Maya. Maya waited. Morrison's voice softened, just enough to sound reasonable. "Officer Williams, my office." "Now." Maya nodded once. As she passed Callahan, he leaned slightly toward her. "This isn't over," he whispered. Maya kept walking. Her cheek still burned. Her pulse was steady. Behind her, the hallway stayed silent, filled with officers who had seen the truth and chosen comfort. Callahan watched her follow Morrison down the hall. His hand rested against his thigh where the knee strike had stopped him. The pain was already fading, but the humiliation stayed. So did the question, "Who sent you?" By the time Maya disappeared into the captain's office, Brett Callahan had stopped thinking of her as a new officer who needed to be put in her place. He had started thinking of her as a threat. Captain Morrison's office smelled faintly of old coffee and paper. Maya stepped inside, still holding the folder from roll call, and waited near the door until Morrison pointed to the chair across from her desk. "Sit down, Officer Williams." Maya sat. Morrison closed the door but did not take her seat right away. She stood with one hand on the back of her chair, studying Maya's face. Her eyes moved once to Maya's cheek, then away. That small glance told Maya enough. The captain had seen the mark. She had also decided not to mention it first. "First day," Morrison said. "And you're already in the middle of something." Maya kept her hands folded over the folder. "I didn't start it. I didn't ask if you started it." Maya looked at her. Morrison's tone was calm, but there was a warning under it. Not anger. Control. Outside the office, voices moved through the hallway again. Lower than before. Careful. No one sounded relaxed. Morrison finally sat down. "Brett Callahan has been here 12 years. He knows this building, knows the people in it, knows how things work. That doesn't give him the right to put his hands on me." "No," Morrison said. "It doesn't." The answer came too quickly. Smooth. Practiced. Maya did not trust it, but she did not show that. Morrison leaned back. "You transferred from Detroit." "Yes, ma'am." 5 years? "Yes, ma'am." "Clean record. Strong evaluations. Commendation for de-escalation during a bus terminal incident." Maya's fingers tightened slightly on the folder. "That's in my file." "It is." Morrison watched her closely. "You're young for that kind of file." "I started young. Most people who start young pick up bad habits. I had good training. And good discipline, apparently." Maya did not answer. That was the truth. But it was not the whole truth. Discipline had not come from the academy first. It had come from the kitchen table in her father's house, from a retired sergeant who had taught her how to hear an insult without letting it steer her hands. Isaiah Williams had been wearing a badge before Maya was born, back when men like him were expected to smile through things no officer should have had to swallow. When Maya was 12, she had watched him hang his uniform jacket over the back of a chair after a long shift. He had not complained. He had never been dramatic, but she remembered his shoulders, the way they dropped when he thought nobody was looking. Years later, when she graduated from the academy, he had placed both hands on her shoulders and said, "That badge will not make people fair. Don't ever confuse authority with justice." She had carried that sentence into every shift since. Morrison tapped a pen against the desk. "Why?" "Rivergate. My father lives here. He's getting older. I wanted to be closer. That's all? Maya met her eyes. That's all. Morrison held the stare for a second longer, then nodded. You understand how this looks. It looks like Officer Callahan slapped me in the hallway. To you. To me. Maybe to the camera if it caught the angle. Morrison set the pen down. But by the time this reaches a report, Callahan will have a version. Mercer will have a version. Everyone who watched and said nothing will suddenly remember less than they saw. Maya stayed quiet. Morrison lowered her voice. I am not your enemy, Officer Williams, but I need you to be smart. Callahan doesn't lose quietly. That sounds like something people have known for a long time. A faint crease appeared between Morrison's eyebrows. It vanished quickly. You're observant. I have to be. Yes, Morrison said. I imagine you do. For the first time since she entered the office, Maya looked away, not from fear, to give herself half a breath. She thought of Detroit. Cold mornings in a patrol car that never warmed up fast enough. Domestic calls where every word mattered. Traffic stops where one wrong movement could turn a quiet street into a report nobody wanted to write. She had learned to read hands, shoulders, silence, and the faces of men who smiled before they lied. Rivergate was supposed to be different. Smaller, closer to her father, a place where she could work hard, keep her head down, and build a life that did not require a 200-mile drive whenever Isaiah had a doctor's appointment. Instead, she had been slapped before lunch on her first day. If you feel for Maya after what she just endured on her very first day, please give this video a like. And if you believe she deserves justice, comment where you are watching from right now. You never know. Someone near you might be watching this story too. Morrison stood up, leaning her palms flat against the desk. I want you to write down every single detail, Williams. Every name, every second, the exact words used. Don't leave anything out. I need a full paper trail to handle this properly. Maya nodded. Yes, ma'am. Good. I'm going to give you a few minutes to start. Morrison opened the door, paused, and looked back with a tight smile. Don't speak to Callahan again today. I wasn't planning to. When the door clicked shut, Maya finally let her shoulders settle. She sat still in the quiet office, her eyes tracking Morrison's silhouette through the frosted glass partition. Outside, the captain didn't head toward the main desk. Instead, she stepped into the shadow of a dim alcove, further down the hall, pulled out her phone, and spoke rapidly into it, her voice barely a murmur. The girl from Detroit has a clean sheet and a heavy file, Morrison whispered into the receiver, her eyes scanning the empty corridor. She's documenting everything right now. Tell Callahan to clean up his trail. We can't let her dig any deeper. Just a few feet away from her alcove, inside the half-open break room, Callahan stood near the counter. One hand rested flat against his thigh, his face no longer red but still tight around the eyes as Mercer leaned in close. Mercer kept his voice low. You should have let it go after the first one. Callahan turned on him. Don't tell me what I should have done. She made you look bad. Callahan's jaw shifted. No. She made herself interesting. Mercer frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Callahan looked toward Morrison's office. She didn't flinch. So? New transfers flinch. They get loud. They complain. They try to prove they're tough. Callahan lowered his voice. She watched everything, like she was counting witnesses. Mercer's expression changed. You think she's filing something? I think she came here ready to file something. Mercer glanced toward the hallway. You mean IA? Callahan did not answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the captain's closed door. For months, there had been whispers, internal affairs, asking quiet questions downtown, old evidence logs being reviewed, a missing cash discrepancy from a riverfront seizure, a complaint from Marcus Reed that should have stayed dead but somehow kept getting mentioned by the wrong people. Callahan had laughed it off in front of others. In private, he had watched every new face. Now Maya Williams had arrived with a clean file, a calm voice, and hands trained well enough to stop him without leaving him anything useful to report. She's too clean, Callahan said. Too calm. Mercer swallowed. What do you want to do? Callahan looked at him then, and the anger was back, sharper now because it had found a direction. We find out who sent her. he said. And if nobody sent her, we make sure she wishes they had. Morrison came back 5 minutes later with a legal pad, a navy folder, and a face that had settled into concern. Maya noticed the folder first. It was already open when the captain sat down. Empty. Waiting. Let's do this the right way, Morrison said. Before anyone else starts talking. Maya sat straight in the chair across from her. Is Officer Callahan being written up? Morrison's pen stopped above the page. We're going to document what happened. That's not what I asked. No, it isn't. Morrison looked up. And I understand why you asked it. But you're new here, Officer Williams. You need to know how this place works before you start forcing doors open. Maya's expression did not change. He slapped me in the hallway. I know what I saw. Then write that. Morrison held her gaze. For a moment, the room felt smaller. The captain's voice stayed soft, but something behind it tightened. I will write what can be supported, she said. That means names, times, positions, witnesses, camera angles, and anything said before physical contact. If this goes forward with emotion and no structure, Callahan will turn it around before lunch. Maya listened. The words were not wrong. That made them harder to distrust. Morrison slid the legal pad toward her. Start with the time. Maya looked at the pad, then back at the captain. There's hallway camera coverage near the records counter. Yes. Pull it. I intend to. Before anyone else touches it. Morrison's face barely moved, but Maya caught the pause. Short. Controlled. That's why I'm telling you to make a clean record now, Morrison said. If there's footage, good. If there isn't, your notes matter. If there isn't, systems fail. Conveniently? Morrison leaned back. I'm trying to help you. Maya let the silence sit for a beat. Then she opened her folder and took out one sheet. It was not everything, just enough to look cooperative. She had written the time, the hallway location, Callahan's words, Mercer's position, and the number of officers present. Morrison reached for it. Maya did not release it right away. The captain's eyes flicked to her hand. I'll need that, Morrison said. I want a copy in my possession. Of course. Maya let go. Morrison placed the sheet into the navy folder with careful hands. Too careful. Like the paper mattered, but not necessarily for Maya's sake. Who else heard Callahan? Morrison asked. Mercer. 2 patrol officers near the break room. 1 older sergeant by the bulletin board. Records clerk at the counter. Name is? I don't know all of them yet. You will. That sounds like advice or a warning. Morrison almost smiled. Both. She wrote something down, then closed the folder halfway. Listen to me, Maya. Can I call you Maya? Maya paused. Officer Williams is fine, ma'am. Morrison accepted the correction with a small nod. Officer Williams, then. Callahan is not just loud. He is connected. He has friends in this building. Friends in the union. Friends who remember favors. If you go at him angry, you lose. I'm not angry. You should be. Maya said nothing. Morrison studied her again. That calm of yours is useful, but it also scares men like him. I noticed. Good. Then notice this too. He will not come at you the same way twice. The sentence landed clean. Maya heard truth in it. Maybe too much truth. What do you suggest? Keep your head down for now. Do your job. Don't confront him. Don't speak to Mercer unless you have to. If anything else happens, bring it to me first. To you? Yes. Maya held her eyes. Not internal affairs? Morrison's face did not shift this time. Internal affairs is a serious step. So was getting slapped in the hallway. And if you run downtown today, Callahan will say you came here looking for a fight. He'll say you never intended to work with this unit. He'll say you were building a case before you learned anyone's name. Maya watched her mouth as she spoke. The words were smooth, almost protective, almost rehearsed. Morrison lowered her voice. I'm not asking you to trust Callahan. I'm asking you to be smart enough not to hand him the story he wants. Maya looked down at the legal pad. The top sheet still held the pressure marks from Morrison's pen. Hard strokes, names, time, hallway, camera. I'll write my own account, Maya said. And I'll keep my own copy. You should. Maya stood. Morrison stood with her. Take the rest of the afternoon to settle in. Report back tomorrow morning at 7. I'll handle the hallway." Maya nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." At the door, Morrison added, "Officer Williams." Maya turned. "I meant what I said. Be careful." Maya looked at the Navy folder under the captain's hand. "I always am." She left the office without looking back. The hallway had cleared, but not completely. A few officers found reasons to be near doorways. Mercer stood by the break room, speaking to Callahan in a low voice. When Maya passed, both men stopped talking. Callahan's eyes dropped briefly to her empty hands, then to Morrison's closed office door. Maya kept walking. Inside the office, Morrison waited until Maya's footsteps faded. She locked the door, opened the Navy folder, and took a photo of the sheet with her phone. Her face showed no panic now, no concern, only calculation. She sent the image without a message. A reply came less than a minute later. "Whitaker, is that all she gave you?" Morrison typed back, "For now. Whitaker, find out what else she has." Morrison looked toward the door. Maya had just closed behind her. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Then she typed, "She's careful." The next reply came fast, "Whitaker." Then Callahan was right. Morrison closed the folder, slid it into her desk drawer, and turned the key. Down the hall, Maya stopped at the records counter and asked for a copy of the precinct map, the patrol roster, and the radio channel assignment sheet. The clerk hesitated before handing them over. Maya noticed that too. By the time she reached the parking lot, the late afternoon sun had dropped behind the station roof. Her car sat near the back row, a gray Honda Accord with Ohio plates and a small dent above the rear wheel. She got in, shut the door, and sat without starting the engine. For the first time since the slap, she touched her cheek. Only once. Then she took out her notebook and wrote 3 words beneath Callahan's name. "Morrison knows more." Inside the building, the Navy folder was already locked away. And before sunrise, the men watching Maya would know exactly where to push next. At 7 the next morning, Maya walked into Rivergate with 2 hours of sleep and a fresh copy of her own notes folded inside her jacket pocket. The hallway looked normal again. Officers moved past her with coffee, clipboards, radios, and the stiff faces of people pretending yesterday had not happened. Callahan stood near the duty board with Mercer at his shoulder. He did not smile when she entered. He only watched her long enough to make sure she saw him watching. Maya checked the assignment sheet. Unit 7, East River Corridor. Familiarization Patrol. Assigned lead, Officer Brett Callahan. Backup unit, Officer Kyle Mercer. Maya read the line twice, then looked toward Morrison's office. The blinds were half closed. Morrison stood inside with a phone pressed to her ear. When she saw Maya looking, she turned slightly away. Callahan stepped up beside Maya. "Looks like we're riding the same side of town today." Maya folded the assignment sheet and slid it into her folder. "I saw. Don't worry," he said. "I'll make sure you learn the area." His voice was even. Too even. Yesterday's open cruelty had been replaced by something cleaner and more deliberate. Mercer tossed a set of keys in the air and caught them. "East River's quiet, if you don't make it hard." Maya looked at him. "Is that advice?" "It's a warning if you need one." Callahan gave Mercer a quick glance, enough to shut him up, then turned back to Maya. "Roll out in 5. The patrol car smelled like vinyl, stale coffee, and old paperwork. Maya sat in the passenger seat while Callahan drove. Mercer followed behind in another unit with Officer Dan Reeves, a quiet patrolman in his 40s who had been standing near the bulletin board during the slap. Reeves had not spoken to Maya then. He did not speak to her now. Callahan drove along the Ohio River, past brick warehouses, fenced lots, storage yards, and old loading docks. Morning fog still sat low near the water. The city looked awake but not busy yet. The kind of hour when delivery trucks moved before office workers filled the roads. Callahan kept one hand on the wheel. "You ever work riverfront calls in Detroit?" "Yes." "Then you know places like this can turn ugly." "I know they can. You also know backup matters." Maya looked out the windshield. "It does." He smiled without looking at her. "Good. We agree on something." The first call came at 8:42. Dispatch reported a disturbance near an abandoned warehouse off Kellerman Street. Three adults arguing near the rear entrance. One caller said someone had been shouting about stolen property. No weapons reported. No injuries reported. Situation uncertain. Callahan picked up the radio. Unit 7 responding. Maya looked at him. We're closest? For now. He turned onto a side road. You take the initial contact. I'll circle wide and check the alley. Mercer will stage 2 blocks out. That's not standard for a 3-person disturbance. It is here. Maya turned her head toward him. Captain Morrison approve that? Callahan's jaw moved once. You always ask this many questions before doing the job? When the plan is bad. His eyes cut toward her. The plan is local knowledge. The warehouse came into view. A long brick building with boarded windows and faded loading bay numbers. A dark SUV sat near the side fence. A pickup truck idled near the rear door. 2 men and 1 woman stood outside, arguing loudly. All 3 appeared to be in their 30s or 40s. Their hands were visible, but their voices were rising. Callahan stopped the cruiser at the mouth of the access road. Maya looked at him. Why are we stopping here? You said backup matters. He nodded toward the warehouse. Go make contact. I'll reposition. Maya held his stare. There it was. Not a mistake. Not confusion. A setup. Wearing a uniform. She opened the door. Keep radio contact. Callahan smiled. Always. Maya stepped out and shut the door. The cruiser rolled away behind her. She walked toward the warehouse, keeping her pace controlled. Not slow enough to look unsure. Not fast enough to provoke. Her thumb touched the radio on her shoulder. Unit 7 to backup. I'm approaching 3 adults at the rear entrance. Requesting 2nd unit to my position. Static answered. Maya pressed again. Unit 7, radio check. More static. She stopped for half a second, eyes moving over the scene. The 3 adults had noticed her now. The taller man pointed toward the woman. The second man shook his head and stepped back toward the pickup. The woman crossed her arms tight, angry but scared. Maya shifted her stance, keeping distance. Rivergate Police. Everybody keep your hands where I can see them. The taller man turned on her. Finally. She took my keys. I didn't take anything, the woman snapped. The second man lifted both hands. I'm just trying to leave. Nobody leaves yet, Maya said. Her voice was firm, not loud. One at a time. You in the brown jacket, step over to the fence. You in the ball cap, stay by the truck. Ma'am, stay where you are. The man in the brown jacket scoffed. Where's your partner? Close enough, Maya said. She pressed the radio again, without taking her eyes off them. Unit 7. Requesting backup at rear warehouse entrance. Kellerman Street. Static. Her pulse stayed even, but her mind moved fast. Callahan had stopped short. Mercer was supposed to stage nearby. The channel had been clear 10 minutes ago. Now it was dead. The woman looked past Maya toward the road. Are you alone? Maya did not answer that directly. I need everyone calm and separated. We can settle the keys after voices come down. The man in the ball cap muttered, "This is stupid," and moved toward the pickup door. Maya angled her body. Stop right there. He stopped, irritated. I said I'm leaving. Not yet. Why? Because I don't know what happened. And I'm not letting this turn into something worse. Because people won't take 10 seconds to breathe. That landed. Not softly, but enough. The man took his hand off the truck door. Maya pointed to the curb. Sit on the edge there. Hands visible. Thank you. He hesitated, then sat. The woman's face loosened a little. The taller man still looked ready to argue, but he had stopped moving. Maya kept them separated, asked short questions, and repeated back only facts. The dispute was over a set of work keys, a borrowed truck, and unpaid repair money. Messy, loud, personal, but not beyond control. 8 minutes passed before Callahan's cruiser turned into the lot. Mercer's unit followed behind him. Callahan stepped out slowly, adjusting his belt like he had arrived exactly when he meant to. Everything okay here? Maya did not look away from the 3 adults. It is now. Mercer walked up beside him. Radio must have been spotty. Maya turned her head then. Both units? Mercer blinked. What? My radio. Their radios. Dispatch. All spotty at the same time. Callahan's mouth tightened. You handled it, didn't you? Yes. Then what's the problem? Maya looked at the warehouse, the 2 patrol cars, then at the clock on her body camera. No problem. Just documenting response time. The word documenting changed Callahan's face. Only slightly, but Maya saw it. He stepped closer, keeping his voice low. You're going to make every little thing a report? When backup is delayed? Yes. Mercer let out a dry laugh. You really don't know when to stop. Maya looked at him. I know exactly when to stop. For a moment, none of them moved. Then Callahan smiled again, but the smile did not reach his eyes. Finish your notes, Williams. We've got a long day. Maya turned back to the civilians and completed the call cleanly. No arrests, no force, no injuries. The keys were returned. The pickup left first. The woman waited for a rideshare on the curb. The taller man signed a brief statement, still annoyed but calmer. By the time the scene cleared, Callahan was standing by his cruiser, watching Maya write in her notebook. She wrote the time of arrival, time of backup, radio failure, unit positions, civilian names, weather, vehicle plates, every fact she could verify. Callahan opened his car door. You done? Maya closed the notebook. For now. As they drove back toward Rivergate, he said nothing for almost 10 minutes. Maya watched the river pass beside them, gray under the morning light. She could feel him building something beside her. Not an outburst this time. Something quieter. Back at the station, Morrison was waiting near the duty desk. How did the familiarization patrol go? She asked. Callahan answered before Maya could. Smooth. Officer Williams got a little nervous on a simple disturbance, but nothing we couldn't manage. Maya looked at Morrison. My radio lost contact during the call. Backup arrived late. I'll be filing a supplemental note. Morrison's eyes paused on her for less than a second. Then she smiled. Bring me a copy. Before end of shift. Maya nodded, but her hand closed around the notebook in her pocket. Of course, ma'am, she said. She walked past them toward the report room. Behind her, Callahan's voice dropped too low for most people to hear, but not low enough. She's still writing everything down. Maya did not turn around. She only kept walking, one steady step at a time. Maya finished the supplemental note in the report room, printed one copy, and saved another to a private flash drive she kept clipped inside her key pouch. She did not give Morrison the original. She brought the captain a clean copy with only the necessary facts: time of call, location, radio failure, backup delay, civilian names, and the final resolution. Morrison accepted it with the same careful smile she had worn all day. You're thorough, Morrison said. I try to be accurate. Accuracy is good. Just make sure it doesn't start looking like suspicion. Maya kept her face still. Is there a difference? Morrison's smile faded by a fraction. In this building, yes. Maya nodded once and left before the captain could say anything else. The rest of the shift moved around her like cold water. Officers spoke when policy required it and stopped when she came too close. Mercer watched her from the break room. Callahan did not approach, but every time she looked up, he seemed to be somewhere nearby, by the duty board, near the Sally Port door, at the end of the hall with one shoulder against the wall. Rivergate had not rejected her loudly. It had simply made space around her until she stood alone inside it. By the time her shift ended, the sun had dropped low over Cincinnati. Maya walked to her gray Honda Accord in the back row of the parking lot, got in, and sat with both hands on the steering wheel. For a moment, she did nothing. No music, no phone, no engine, only the steady pressure of the day settling behind her eyes. Then she pulled out her notebook and added 3 lines beneath the earlier notes. Radio failed after assignment with Callahan. Backup delayed approximately 8 minutes. Morrison asked for copy immediately after return. She underlined Morrison once, then closed the notebook. Her apartment was 20 minutes away, in a quiet brick building near a street of older homes with small lawns and porch flags. Most of the neighbors were working people, retirees, and families who had been there long enough to know which cars belonged and which ones did not. Mrs. Dempsey from downstairs was watering a row of potted mums when Maya parked. "You settling in all right, honey?" the older woman called. Maya forced a small smile. "Getting there, ma'am. Your daddy stopped by earlier. Left something by your door. Thank you." Mrs. Dempsey studied her for a second, old enough and sharp enough to know when someone was carrying more than groceries. But she only nodded. "Eat something warm tonight. Bad days get worse on an empty stomach." "Yes, ma'am." Outside, Maya's door sat a brown paper bag from a neighborhood diner, folded twice at the top. Inside were a container of Cincinnati chili, crackers, and a handwritten note in her father's slow, blocky handwriting. "You forget to eat when you're thinking too hard. Don't." Maya stood in the hallway longer than she meant to, holding the note. Inside, her apartment was still half unpacked. Cardboard boxes lined one wall. Her framed academy photo leaned against the baseboard instead of hanging above the small dining table. On the counter sat the notebook Isaiah had given her when she first became an officer. The cover was dark brown leather, worn at the corners, with her initials pressed into the lower right side. She warmed the chili, ate standing at the counter, then called her father. Isaiah Williams answered on the third ring. "You eat? Hello to you too. That wasn't my question. I'm eating now." "Good. You sound tired." "I am." He went quiet. That was his way. He did not rush into worry. He let the silence make room. Maya leaned against the counter. "Something happened yesterday." "How bad?" "A man named Callahan slapped me in the hallway." Isaiah did not speak right away. When he did, his voice had changed. It was lower, slower. "You all right?" "I'm not injured." "That's not what I asked." Maya looked at the notebook on the counter. "I stayed calm." "I figured you did." He tried again. "I stopped him." "With control?" "Yes." "Good." They watched, Dad. A whole hallway of officers. Nobody said a word. Isaiah breathed out through his nose. She could picture him in his old recliner, glasses low on his face, one hand pressed against his knee the way he did when the weather made it ache. "That kind of silence has been wearing a badge longer than you and me both," he said. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. "Today, they put me on a call near the river. My radio went dead. Backup took its time." "Same man?" "Callahan and his partner." "You document it?" "Yes. Keep a copy where they can't reach it." "I did." "Good girl." The words nearly broke something in her. Not because they were soft, but because they came from a man who knew exactly what they cost. "I don't know if I can fight a whole department," Maya said. "You don't fight the whole department," Isaiah replied. "You hold on to the truth until the liars get tired." Maya opened her eyes. He continued. "They want your anger because anger is easy to punish. Give them evidence instead." "I'm trying." "Then keep trying. And don't hand all your notes to anybody wearing a helpful smile." Maya looked toward the copy of her report still lying on the table. "You always said I was too suspicious." "No," Isaiah said. "I said you were observant. Suspicious is when you invent what isn't there. Observant is when you notice what people hoped you'd miss." After the call, Maya sat at the small table and built the first clean timeline. She wrote slowly, with no adjectives, just facts. Date, time, location, people present, words spoken, actions taken, radio failure, backup arrival, Morrison's questions, Callahan's reactions. At 10:37 p.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was short. "Backlot. 10 minutes. Come alone if you want to know about Marcus Reed." Maya stared at it. She did not move for almost 30 seconds. Then she stood, put on her jacket, slipped the notebook into the inner pocket, and left without turning on the living room light. The parking lot behind her building was quiet, except for traffic from the main road. A woman stood near the dumpster enclosure, hands buried in the pockets of a dark hoodie. When she stepped under the security light, Maya recognized Officer Elena Cruz. Cruz looked smaller out of uniform, more tired. "You followed me?" Maya asked. "No. I looked up your address through the emergency contact system." Cruz winced at her own answer. "I know. That sounds bad." "It is bad. I didn't know how else to talk, without them seeing." Maya stayed where she was. Who is Marcus Reed? Cruz looked toward the street before answering. He was an officer at Rivergate. 29. Good cop. Quiet. Asked too many questions about cash from a seizure that didn't match the final report. And his radio failed on a call 2 weeks later. Backup was late. After that, complaints started showing up in his file. Attitude, poor fit, failure to follow unit culture. Cruz swallowed. 3 months later, he was gone. Maya's face stayed calm, but her eyes sharpened. Callahan? Callahan was on the seizure. Mercer backed him. Whitaker closed the complaint. Morrison? Cruz did not answer quickly enough. Maya understood. She knew. Cruz looked down. Morrison always knows enough to stay clean. A car passed on the street. Both women waited until the sound faded. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. Cruz pulled a folded slip of paper from her pocket and held it out. Because I didn't help him. Maya took the paper. 3 case numbers. 2 dates. 1 name circled at the bottom. Marcus Reed. Cruz's voice dropped. If you're writing things down, don't stop. But don't trust the captain with all of it. Maya folded the paper once and slid it into her notebook. I already stopped doing that, she said. For the first time, Cruz looked directly at her. Maya held her gaze. Neither woman called it an alliance. Not yet, but when Cruz walked away through the dim parking lot, Maya stayed under the security light, one hand on the notebook inside her jacket. Knowing the slap, the silent radio, and the late backup were no longer separate events. They were entries in a pattern. The next morning, Maya did not look for Cruz inside the precinct. She let the day move around her. Roll call, patrol assignments, 2 routine calls. A traffic assist near a grocery store where an older man in a Bengals cap thanked her twice and told her to, "Stay safe out there, ma'am." She answered politely, but her mind kept returning to the slip of paper in her notebook. 3 case numbers, 2 dates. Marcus Reed. By noon, Callahan had already made 3 passes by her desk. Mercer made 2. Neither of them said anything direct, which told Maya more than words would have. They were watching to see what she would touch, so she touched nothing. She did not search the numbers from a precinct computer. She did not ask records for old files. She did not mention Marcus Reed to anyone. She finished her reports, logged out cleanly, and left the building at the end of shift like she had nowhere special to be. 20 minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of Millie's Diner, a small place on a corner near a laundromat and a used tire shop. The sign in the window promised hot coffee, fresh pie, and breakfast all day. Inside, the booths were cracked red vinyl. The walls were covered with faded Cincinnati Reds photos, and most of the customers looked like they had been coming there since before Maya was born. Cruz was already in the back booth, sitting with her shoulders tight and both hands wrapped around a coffee mug. Maya slid in across from her. "You picked a public place. Public is safer than private," Cruz said. A waitress in her 60s came by with a pot of coffee. "You want some, honey?" "Yes, ma'am." "Black, please." The waitress filled the cup and looked between them. "You too, eating or solving the world's problems?" Cruz almost smiled. "Maybe both. Then I recommend pie. Pie helps with everything, except taxes." Maya ordered coffee and a slice of apple pie she did not really want. Cruz waited until the waitress walked away before pulling a thin folder from inside her jacket. "You didn't get this from me," Cruz said. "I don't know what this is yet." "That's the right answer." Maya opened the folder under the table edge, low enough that no one walking past could read it. Inside were photocopies of old inventory logs, partial complaint forms, and handwritten notes. Some pages were faded. Some had black marks over names. A few had dates circled in blue ink. Maya started with the first case number. Cash seizure from a riverfront gambling call. Initial field count, $18,640. Final evidence intake, $14,200. She looked up. "That's not a rounding error." "No." "Who was primary?" Cruz tapped the page. "Callahan." "Supervisor?" "Whitaker." Maya turned the next page. Vehicle stopped near Kellerman Street. Confiscated cash listed by responding officers at just over $9,000. Final report showed $6,000 and change. Evidence transfer delayed by 11 hours. "Callahan again," Maya said. And Mercer. Maya kept reading. The third file involved property recovered from a warehouse break-in. Not cash this time, but missing serial numbers and a late evidence entry. Camera outage near the evidence hallway from 11:12 p.m. to 11:39 p.m. Maya's eyes paused there. Camera outage. Cruz nodded. You'll see that a lot. How many times? Enough. Maya closed the folder halfway as the waitress returned with pie. She waited until the woman walked away, then leaned forward. Why didn't Marcus take this to internal affairs? He tried. Maya looked at her. Cruz's mouth tightened. He asked questions first, quietly, like you. Then he pulled a few logs. A week later, Whitaker called him in for being disruptive. After that, Callahan started saying Marcus had an attitude problem. Mercer backed him. Morrison said she'd look into it. And did she? Cruz let out a short breath. She looked into Marcus. Maya sat back. The diner noise filled the space between them. Silverware, low conversation, the bell over the door. Ordinary sounds, safe sounds. That made the folder between them feel heavier. Cruz pushed another page forward. This is the complaint Marcus filed before he left. He named Callahan and Whitaker. He also said he believed someone in command was warning them before records could be reviewed. Morrison. He didn't name her. But yes, Maya studied the complaint. The language was careful, professional, almost painfully restrained. Marcus had written like a man who knew every word might be used against him. What happened after this? It disappeared from the system. Then his evaluations changed. Missed radio check. Poor teamwork. Unprofessional tone with senior officers. Little things. Enough to make him look like the problem. Maya touched the edge of the paper. And you kept copies. I kept some. Cruz looked down at her coffee. Not enough to save him. Maya did not soften her voice. But enough to start. Cruz looked up then. Start what? A pattern. Cruz's fear returned fast. Maya, if they know I gave you this, they won't hear it from me. That may not matter. Things get back to them. I know. No, I mean it. Things you say in rooms you think are safe. Things you ask about. People you stand next to. Somehow Callahan knows. Maya took a slow sip of coffee. Morrison. Cruz did not deny it. I gave her a small piece yesterday, Maya said. Nothing critical. By morning, Callahan knew enough to push. Cruz's face went pale. You tested her? I needed to know. And now I test her again. Cruz stared. That sounds dangerous. It is. Maya pulled a blank napkin from the dispenser and wrote one case number on it. Not one from Cruz's folder, but close enough to sound related. A dead end. A harmless wrong turn. I'm going to ask Morrison about this file, Maya said. If Callahan reacts to it, we know she's feeding him directly. Cruz looked at the napkin, then at Maya. And if he doesn't, then we still learned what she didn't pass. That is not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. For the first time, Cruz gave a tired laugh. It faded quickly. Maya placed the real copies back in the folder and slid it toward herself. Can I keep these tonight? Cruz hesitated. I'll scan them somewhere off-site, Maya said. No precinct computers. No department email. Cruz nodded once. Bring them back tomorrow. I will. When they left the diner, Cruz went first. Maya waited at the register, paid for both coffees and the pie, and thanked the waitress. The older woman looked at her uniform under the open jacket and said, You take care, officer. Yes, Mom, Maya said. Back at her apartment, Maya scanned every page with a small portable scanner she had bought years ago for court documents. She saved the files to 2 drives, then wrote the first clean pattern chart on yellow legal paper. Callahan present. Whitaker signs off. Camera issue. Delayed evidence entry. Complaint closed. Officer transferred or discredited. 5 lines. Then another 5. Then another. Near midnight, she copied the fake case number onto a separate page and wrote Morrison beside it. The next morning, she stepped into Morrison's office and placed the page on the desk. I found another number connected to Reed, Maya said. Can you tell me why this one is restricted? Morrison picked it up. Her face stayed mild. I'll look into it, she said. By lunch, Callahan passed Maya near the duty board and smiled. "Careful digging through old graves, Williams," he said. "Sometimes there's nothing there but dirt." Maya did not answer. She walked past him, calm and steady, while the answer settled cold in her chest. Morrison was not just watching. She was reporting. Maya waited until the end of shift before she contacted Cruz. She did not call. She sent one short text from the grocery store parking lot, 2 miles from the precinct. "We need to go downtown." Cruz answered 7 minutes later. "Tonight?" Maya looked through the windshield at the darkening sky. Cars moved past on Glenway Avenue, headlights sliding across her face. "No. Morning. Before shift change. Bring copies, not originals." The reply came slower this time. "Yeah?" Maya typed back. "Yes." The next morning, Cincinnati was gray and cold. Maya parked 3 blocks from the Internal Affairs office and walked the rest of the way with her coat buttoned, her notebook tucked flat against her ribs. Cruz arrived 10 minutes later in a black sedan that had seen better years. She got out, holding a plain manila envelope against her chest. "You sure about this?" Cruz asked. "No." Cruz looked at her. Maya kept walking. "But I'm sure waiting helps them." The Internal Affairs office sat inside a downtown municipal building with tinted glass and quiet elevators. Nobody in the lobby raised their voice. Nobody laughed too loud. Even the receptionist spoke like sound itself was being recorded. Maya gave her name. Cruz stood half a step behind her, eyes moving from the security camera to the hallway doors. After several minutes, a man in a dark suit stepped out. "Officer Williams?" Maya stood. "Yes, sir. I'm Deputy Chief Raymond Hale." He was tall, late 50s, with close-cropped gray hair, and a face that did not offer comfort easily. His eyes went to Cruz, then to the envelope in her hands. "Officer Cruz?" "Yes, sir." Hale opened the door wider. "Come in." His office was plain. Desk, 3 chairs, city map on one wall, framed commendations on other. No family photos. No decorations meant to soften the room. Maya noticed that immediately. Hale did not appear interested in being liked. He sat behind the desk and folded his hands. "I understand this concerns Rivergate." Maya took the chair on the left. Cruz sat beside her, stiff-backed. "Yes, sir," Maya said. "Then start with what you can prove. Not what happened. Not how you feel. What you can prove." Maya respected the question. She opened her notebook. Day 1. Main hallway. Officer Brett Callahan made a racially charged comment, slapped me across the face, and raised his hand a second time. I used a controlled knee strike to stop his forward movement and a short wrist control on Officer Mercer when he moved toward me. No injury. No continued force. Hale watched her without writing. Witnesses? 6 officers within view. None have come forward. Camera? Hallway camera near records. I requested it be preserved through Captain Morrison. Hale's eyes sharpened slightly. "Through Morrison?" "Yes, sir." "You have a copy?" "Not yet." "Then you don't have the camera." Maya accepted the correction with a nod. "Not yet." Cruz shifted beside her, then placed the envelope on the desk. "There's more." Hale did not touch it right away. "Your involvement." "Officer Cruz, I worked Rivergate 6 years. I've seen complaints vanish. I didn't speak up before." Her mouth tightened. "I'm speaking now." Hale opened the envelope and removed the copies. Maya watched his face as he read. He did not react much, but his pace slowed on the cash seizure logs. He looked up. "These are copies." "Yes, sir," Cruz said. "The originals are still in the department system if they haven't been changed. That last part matters." "We know." Hale spread the pages across the desk. "Walk me through it." Maya did. She kept it clean. No speeches, no outrage. Just sequence. Marcus Reed, 29, former Rivergate officer. Asked about a cash discrepancy. Callahan was primary on the seizure. Mercer supported the report. Whitaker approved the final evidence intake. Camera outage near the evidence hallway that same night. Complaint filed. Complaint. Disappeared. Reed's evaluations changed. Reed left. Then the newer pattern. Maya's hallway incident. Morrison asking for notes. Callahan knowing details by the next day. Riverfront patrol. Radio failure. Backup delay. The fake case number given to Morrison. Callahan mentioning it before anyone else should have known. Hale wrote only a few words while she talked. That made every stroke of his pen feel important. When Maya finished, the office stayed quiet. Cruz looked at Hale. Is it enough? No. The answer hit Cruz hard. Sir, Hale lifted a hand. It's enough to concern me. It's enough to open a preliminary review. It is not enough to take down a unit, a sergeant, and possibly a command officer. Not yet. Maya did not argue. What do you need? Direct evidence. Video. Access logs. Radio logs from the dispatch system. Not a handwritten timeline. Evidence room records showing who touched what and when. A witness willing to go on record. Something that survives an attorney. A union rep. And a captain who says you misunderstood her. Cruz lowered her eyes. Hale leaned forward. If you're right, Officer Williams, this isn't just harassment. This is a machine. And machines don't stop because someone asks nicely. Maya held his gaze. Then how do they stop? You jam them with something they can't grind down. He gathered the copies, tapped them into a stack, and slid them into a gray file folder. Maya's eyes followed the folder. Do those stay here? Yes. Who knows we came. For now, my assistant, me, and whoever saw you walk into this building, that may be enough. Hale looked at her for a long second. You believe someone is watching you. I believe someone knows too much too fast. Morrison? I don't have proof. That was not my question. Maya paused. Yes, Hale nodded once. Then stop feeding her real information. I already did. For the first time, something close to approval crossed his face. It disappeared quickly. Cruz spoke quietly. What happens now? I verify what I can without alerting Rivergate. You two do not pull any more records from inside the precinct. You do not talk about this in locker rooms, parking lots, report rooms, or patrol cars. You do not send anything through department email. If something happens, you contact me directly. He wrote a number on the back of his card and handed it to Maya. Not my office line, he said. That one. Maya took it. Yes, sir. Hale looked between both women. And understand this. If Callahan thinks Officer Williams is IA, and if he believes she is close to proving something, he will not settle for rumors. Cruz swallowed. What do you think he'll do? Hale's voice stayed flat. He'll make her radioactive. Maya knew what he meant. Not disliked. Not isolated. Untouchable. Someone no one would defend, because standing near her would look dangerous. When they left the building, Cruz stopped on the sidewalk. Radioactive, she said. Maya tucked Hale's card into her coat pocket. He was warning us. He was warning you. Maya looked across the street. A black and white Rivergate cruiser rolled past the intersection, slower than traffic required. She could not see the driver clearly through the windshield, but she recognized the unit number on the front fender. Mercer's car. Cruz saw it too. Her face lost color. They know. Not everything, Maya said. The cruiser turned right and disappeared between two buildings. Cruz wrapped both arms around herself. Maya, this is going to get worse. Maya looked toward the direction the cruiser had gone. Her expression stayed calm, but her hand closed around the card in her pocket. I know, she said. That's why we came. The following Monday began like every other morning at Rivergate. Roll call, assignments, short acknowledgments, eyes that looked at Maya only long enough to remind her she did not belong. Callahan stood near the front of the room with a coffee cup in one hand, talking quietly to Mercer. They stopped the moment Sergeant Whitaker walked in. Whitaker glanced around the room. Before patrol, he announced, internal security will be conducting random equipment inspections today. Lockers, patrol bags, department-issued gear. Standard procedure. Several officers groaned. Mercer laughed. Guess everybody gets the honor today. Whitaker gave a thin smile. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. His eyes rested on Maya for less than a second. It was enough. Maya noticed Cruz looking toward her from the back row. Neither woman reacted. After roll call, officers drifted toward the locker room. Maya unlocked her locker and checked it the same way she always did. Duty belt, flashlight, citation book, Spare gloves, rain jacket. Everything appeared normal. She closed the door and headed toward the patrol garage. She had barely reached the hallway when Whitaker's voice echoed behind her. "Officer Williams." She turned. "Yes, Sergeant. We're starting inspections now." "So am I first?" Whitaker smiled politely. Random. 4 internal security officers entered the locker room carrying clipboards. Callahan leaned against the opposite wall with folded arms. Mercer stood beside the soda machine, pretending not to watch. Maya stepped back as one inspector unlocked her locker again. "Mind telling me what prompted this?" she asked. "Routine inspection." The inspector removed each item one by one. Flashlight, traffic vest, notebook, first aid pouch. Everything was placed neatly on a nearby bench. Another inspector reached toward the back corner of the locker. His hand stopped. He frowned. "There's something here." The room became completely silent. The inspector pulled out a sealed evidence bag. A yellow evidence label was attached to the outside. Inside sat a small plastic package marked as controlled evidence from an older investigation. Another envelope followed. Cash. Banded. An evidence identification sticker covered one corner. Nobody spoke. Whitaker stepped closer. "What is that doing in your locker, Officer Williams?" Maya stared at the items. Her expression did not change. "I've never seen those before." Callahan gave a quiet chuckle. "Well," he said, "that's awkward." Whitaker ignored him. "Officer Williams, are these yours?" "No." "Did anyone else have access to your locker?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "I lock it every day." Whitaker folded his arms. "That's not an answer. It's the only truthful one." One of the inspectors checked the evidence tag. "This package is listed as missing from archived storage." Mercer's eyebrows lifted dramatically. "Missing?" he repeated. The second inspector counted the money inside the envelope. "Cash bundle has an archived property number." Whitaker looked directly at Maya. "Officer Williams, this is becoming very serious." Maya met his eyes. "I understand that. You're saying someone planted department evidence inside your assigned locker?" "Yes." Whitaker nodded slowly. "That is an extraordinary claim. So is finding evidence in a locker that doesn't belong to me." Callahan pushed himself away from the wall. "You're really going with that?" Maya ignored him. Whitaker looked toward internal security. "Photograph everything." Camera shutters clicked. Evidence markers were placed beside the bag and the envelope. One inspector recorded the locker number. Another noted the time. Maya watched every movement. No panic, no shouting, no desperate explanations. Only observation. Callahan frowned. He had expected anger. Instead, he found patience. Whitaker noticed it too. "You're surprisingly calm," Maya answered without hesitation. "Being upset doesn't change what's inside my locker." Whitaker studied her for another moment. "No," he said quietly. "It doesn't." 20 minutes later, Maya sat alone inside a small interview room. Her badge, service weapon, and department credentials rested inside a sealed property tray on the table. An internal security investigator switched on a recorder. "For the record," he said, "state your name." "Maya Williams." "Rank?" "Police officer." "Do you acknowledge that suspected department evidence was recovered from your assigned locker this morning?" "I acknowledge it was recovered." "Do you acknowledge placing it there?" "No." "Can you explain how it got there?" "No." "Have you ever possessed those items?" "No." "Do you believe someone planted them?" "Yes." "Who?" "I don't know." The investigator waited. Maya remained silent. She knew better than to guess. After several seconds, he switched off the recorder. Whitaker entered. The investigator stood and quietly left the room. Whitaker closed the door behind him. "This is unfortunate," he said. Maya looked at him without speaking. "You had a promising file." "I still do." Whitaker seahed. "Officer Williams, perception matters. So does evidence." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes they're not the same thing." He placed a document on the table. "Pending investigation. You're being placed on administrative leave." Maya read the paper. "Badge suspended. Firearm surrendered. Access to department systems revoked. Further review pending." She signed where required. Nothing more. Whitaker seemed almost disappointed. "I expected more resistance. You asked for my signature. I expected questions. I'll save them." For your attorney? For whoever eventually wants real answers. Whitaker picked up the document. You should think carefully before making accusations. I already have. You've been here less than a week. I noticed. He opened the door. You're free to leave. As Maya stepped into the hallway, conversations stopped. Officers looked away almost immediately. Others watched openly. Mercer stood beside Callahan near the report room. Mercer shook his head slowly. That's a shame. Callahan slipped both hands into his pockets. I tried to tell you, he said quietly. Around here, people who don't know their place usually don't stay very long. Maya stopped walking. For 1 second, every eye in the hallway settled on her. She looked directly at Callahan. You seem unusually interested in how this investigation ends. His smile barely moved. I believe in accountability. So do I. She continued toward the exit, without another word. Behind her, Callahan's expression remained confident. But once Maya disappeared through the front doors, his smile faded. Mercer leaned closer. She didn't crack. No, Callahan replied. She didn't. Mercer lowered his voice. What if she actually talks to internal affairs now? Callahan looked toward the station entrance. She already has. Mercer's head turned sharply. You know that? I know enough. He glanced toward Whitaker's office upstairs. A moment later, his phone vibrated. One new message. Morrison. She signed the leave paperwork. Calm the whole time. Callahan read it twice before deleting it. She thinks she's still in the game, he muttered. Mercer asked, Is she? Callahan looked toward the evidence room at the end of the hallway. Not for long. Maya drove home without turning on the radio. The city moved around her in ordinary ways. Buses pulled to curbs. Office workers crossed streets with paper cups in their hands. A man in a work jacket carried groceries into an apartment building. Nothing outside her windshield looked different, but every mile away from Rivergate felt heavier than the last. Her badge was gone. Her weapon was gone. Her access card was gone. The department had not arrested her. Not yet. But the word yet sat in the passenger seat with her like something breathing. When she reached her apartment, Mrs. Dempsey was on the front steps with a laundry basket against her hip. She started to smile, then stopped when she saw Maya's face. You all right, honey? Maya forced her key into her hand before it could shake. Long day, ma'am. Mrs. Dempsey did not push. Older people who had lived long enough to recognize trouble often knew when questions would only bruise. She simply nodded toward Maya's door. Your daddy called earlier. Said he might come by. Maya nodded. Thank you. Inside, the apartment felt too quiet. The boxes along the wall were still unpacked. Her uniform jacket hung over the back of a chair, empty now, without the badge on the front. Maya looked at it for a few seconds, then turned away. Her phone buzzed before she could take off her coat. Unknown number. Bad luck follows dirty hands. She stared at the message, then deleted it. Another buzz came seconds later, this time from a number she knew. Isaiah. She answered, but did not speak first. Her father's voice was calm. You home? Yes. You alone? Yes. What happened? Maya closed her eyes. They found evidence in my locker. Silence filled the line. Then Isaiah said, Was it yours? No. Then say that once. Clearly. To your lawyer, to internal affairs, to God. Don't waste it on people who already chose their story. Maya sat at the kitchen table. They took my badge. I know what that feels like. That made her open her eyes. Isaiah had never said much about the year he spent fighting a false complaint before retirement. He had only told her the clean version. Paperwork, hearings, reinstatement of record, no formal discipline. But his voice now carried the part he had kept from her when she was younger. It feels like they took your name, he said. Maya swallowed. That's exactly what it feels like. They didn't. They borrowed it. You get it back with facts. What if facts aren't enough? Then you gather more. I might need an attorney. You do need an attorney. I might need money for one. I have savings. No. Maya. No, Dad. His voice sharpened slightly. Do not argue pride with me when people are trying to bury you. She looked at the uniform jacket again. I'll call someone tonight. Good. And Maya? Yes? If you're going to cry, cry here. Not there. Her mouth tightened. I'm not crying. I didn't say you were. I'm saying choose where you're human. After they hung up, Maya sat still for a long time. Then she opened her laptop. News traveled fast through a police department, but rumors moved faster. Before sunset, 2 messages from officers she barely knew had come in pretending to ask if she was okay, while clearly fishing for details. One said people were saying she had been caught with missing narcotics. Another asked if it was true Internal Affairs had sent her to spy on the unit and then abandoned her when things went bad. Maya did not answer either. She opened her notebook instead and wrote every detail of the locker search. Time, names, where Callahan stood, where Mercer stood, Whitaker's exact wording, the way Morrison did not appear until after the paperwork was already signed, the text from the unknown number. At 7:18 p.m., she called Cruz. Voicemail. She waited 10 minutes and called again. Voicemail. Then she sent one message. Are you safe? The read receipt appeared almost immediately. No reply came. Maya placed the phone face down on the table. The silence hurt more than she expected. She understood fear. She understood self-preservation. Cruz had already risked more than most people in that building, but understanding did not make the apartment feel less empty. At 8:04, another call came. Morrison. Maya let it ring twice before answering. Officer Williams. Maya, Morrison said, her voice low and careful. I heard about today. Maya looked at the notebook. You heard? I was briefed. Of course. A pause. I know this looks bad, Morrison said. That seems to be the phrase of the day. I'm trying to help you. Maya leaned back in the chair. Are you? Maya, listen to me. If you fight this the wrong way, it will get uglier. The department will protect itself. The union will protect Callahan if he says you've been targeting him. Prosecutors will look at what was found, not what you feel. What do you suggest? Step back. Let the process work. Don't talk to anyone outside the chain of command. Including Internal Affairs? Morrison hesitated just long enough. Yes, she said. For now. Maya lowered her eyes. There it was. I tried to help you, Morrison continued. But this looks very bad. If you push too hard, you may turn an administrative matter into something criminal. Maya let her voice drop. Not too much. Just enough. Maybe I wasn't built for this place. The line went quiet. When Morrison answered, her tone had softened. No one would blame you for feeling overwhelmed. I'm tired. I can imagine. I need time to think. Of course. Maya closed her notebook slowly, letting the sound carry near the phone. Maybe stepping away is better than letting this destroy everything. You mean resigning? I don't know. Maya, that's a serious decision. I know. If you want, send me something in writing. Not final. Just so I understand where your head is. Maya stared at the wall. Morrison had reached for it faster than expected. I'll think about it, Maya said. After the call ended, Maya remained still for several seconds. Then she turned the phone over and opened Hale's card from her coat pocket. She dialed the number he had written on the back. He answered without greeting. Hale, it's Williams. Tell me. She did. Not emotionally, not dramatically. She gave him the locker search, the evidence bag, the cash envelope, Whitaker's paperwork, Morrison's call, and Cruz going silent. Hale did not interrupt. When she finished, he said, Do you believe they expect you to fight? Yes. Then don't. Maya said nothing. Not publicly, he added. Let them think they scared you. Let them think you're isolated. People get careless when they believe the room belongs to them. Maya looked toward the uniform jacket. You want me to look broken? I want them to believe their plan worked. And if they move toward charges before we have enough, then we move faster. That is not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Maya almost smiled. Almost. Hale's voice lowered. Can you do it? Maya looked at her notebook, then at the blank email window on her laptop. Yes. After the call, she typed slowly. Captain Morrison, given the seriousness of today's events and the damage this has caused to the department, I am considering whether resignation may be the best way to prevent further disruption. I need time, but I wanted you to be aware of where I am emotionally. She read it twice, then she stopped. Her phone buzzed. A message from Hale. Do exactly what we discussed. Maya stared at the line, then deleted the notification from the screen. She did not send the email yet. First, she printed a copy and placed it beside her unsigned resignation draft. Then she photographed both and saved them to a secure folder. Only then did she hit send. Across town, in an office with half-closed blinds, Diane Morrison read the email and exhaled. Within minutes, Whitaker had it. Within 10, Callahan did. At 9:03 p.m., Maya's phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. Some people just don't belong behind a badge. Maya read it once. Then she placed the phone face down, opened her notebook, and wrote beneath the day's final entry, "They believe I'm done." The resignation email reached Callahan before sunrise. He read it in his kitchen, while standing barefoot on the cold tile, the phone bright in his hand, coffee untouched beside the sink. Morrison had forwarded it, with only 3 words. "She's folding fast." Callahan smiled. By the time he arrived at Rivergate, the story had already started moving. Not officially. Official stories took paperwork. This one moved through lowered voices, half-open doors, and officers who pretended they were only asking questions. Maya Williams was considering resignation. Maya Williams had finally realized how bad it looked. Maya Williams might leave before the investigation went any further. Callahan did not correct anyone. He let the rumor breathe. In the break room, Mercer stood by the counter, stirring sugar into coffee he did not need. His eyes were restless. He looked toward the doorway twice before speaking. "She really sent that email?" Callahan leaned against the refrigerator, relaxed for the first time in days. Morrison saw it herself. Considering resignation doesn't mean she's done. It means she's scared. Mercer lowered his voice. "Or it means she's playing something." Callahan's smile disappeared. "You give her too much credit." "I give Hale credit," Mercer said. "She went downtown. We saw her car. You know she talked to him." Callahan stepped closer. Mercer stopped stirring. "She went downtown with scraps," Callahan said. "Old complaints. Reed's whining. A radio issue she can't prove. Now evidence shows up in her locker. And suddenly she wants to resign. That's not a play. That's a woman looking for an exit." Mercer looked down into his coffee. "The bag still bothers me." "Then stop thinking about it." "That's easy for you to say." "It was easy because it was done right." Mercer's jaw tightened. "I'm the one who walked in there." Callahan's eyes sharpened. "Keep your voice down." The break room door opened, and both men stopped. Dan Reeves entered, saw their faces, and paused. Reeves was in his 40s, tired around the eyes, the kind of officer who had learned to survive by never standing in the brightest part of a fight. He reached for a paper cup. "Morning," he said. Callahan's face softened into something casual. "Reeves." Mercer stared at his coffee. Reeves filled his cup, added cream, then turned to leave. Callahan spoke before he reached the door. "You were near the hall the other day." Reeves stopped. "Which hall?" Callahan smiled. "Don't do that." Reeves kept his hand on the doorframe. "I didn't see much. That's what I figured." Reeves looked at him then. Not defiant, not brave, just tired. "I said I didn't see much." Callahan nodded. "Good memory." Reeves left. Mercer watched the door close. "You shouldn't push him. He won't talk." "You sure?" "Nobody talks when they know what talking costs." Mercer did not answer. At 10:30, Whitaker called Callahan and Mercer into his office. The blinds were half closed. Morrison was already there, standing near the side wall with a folder tucked beneath one arm. Whitaker did not offer anyone a seat. "She sent the email last night," Morrison said. Callahan nodded. "I heard." Morrison gave him a cool look. "You heard. Because I decided you needed to know." "Then thank you, Captain." "This isn't over," she said. "An email is not a signed resignation." Whitaker folded his hands on the desk. "It may not need to be. If she resigns during administrative leave, we document that she left while under investigation. The locker issue remains open. If prosecutors want to review, they review. Either way, she's out of the building." Mercer shifted. "And if she doesn't resign?" Whitaker looked at him. "Then, the disciplinary board moves forward." Morrison's mouth tightened. Carefully. Hale has already sniffed around this. Callahan turned his head. What did he ask for? Nothing official yet, Morrison said. That worries me more. Whitaker tapped a finger once on the desk. Hale needs something solid. He doesn't have it. Mercer looked at Whitaker. What about the evidence logs? Whitaker's eyes hardened. Mercer swallowed. I'm just asking. You should ask less, Whitaker said. Callahan let out a small laugh. Relax. Whitaker pulled the old case number. Morrison kept us ahead of every move she made. The resignation scared her more than the locker did. Morrison looked at him sharply. Don't get careless. Callahan shrugged. She's done. That attitude is how people get caught. No, Callahan said. People get caught when they panic. She panicked. We didn't. Mercer rubbed a hand across his mouth. That bag. Better not come back on me. Whitaker stood. The room went quiet. Nothing comes back on anyone if everyone remembers what happened, he said. Internal security acted on a credible tip. Evidence was found in Officer Williams's assigned locker. She denied knowledge. She was placed on leave. That is the story, Morrison added. And nobody discusses anything outside proper channels. Callahan's eyes flicked toward her. Proper channels, right. Morrison stepped closer to him. You think this is funny? I think you're nervous. I think you're arrogant. He smiled. That's why you needed me in the first place. For the first time, Morrison's face showed real anger. It was gone quickly, but not before Mercer saw it. Whitaker raised his hand. Enough. Williams believes she's alone. Keep her there. No contact unless approved. No hallway comments. No messages. No jokes in public. Callahan said nothing. Whitaker's gaze sharpened. Brett, I heard you. Good. Because if Hale gets even one clean thread, he'll pull until the whole coat comes apart. Morrison left first. Mercer followed Callahan into the hallway a few seconds later. You shouldn't have said that in there, Mercer muttered. Said what? About the bag. About Morrison. Callahan stopped walking. You're starting to sound like you want a confession booth. I want to stay out of prison. Callahan turned fully toward him. Then keep your mouth shut and your story simple. Mercer looked away. Across the station, Reeves stood near the report room, watching them. When Callahan caught his eye, Reeves quickly looked down at the paper in his hand. Callahan smiled again. Fear was back where it belonged. That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table with the unsigned resignation draft beside her laptop. Isaiah had come over with dinner in a foil-covered dish. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, the kind of food he made when words were not enough. He moved slowly around her kitchen, placing plates on the table like he had done when she was a girl. You eating or just staring at federal evidence? He asked. It's not federal. Looks serious enough to ruin an appetite. Maya picked up her fork. I'm eating. Isaiah sat across from her. He did not ask for details she could not give. He looked older tonight, the lines around his mouth deeper, his hands a little stiff from the cold. After a few bites, he said, You look like you're carrying two faces. Maya glanced up. One for them, he said. One for yourself. She looked at the resignation draft. They need to believe the first one. And you? I need to remember the second. Isaiah nodded slowly. That's hard work. It's temporary. Most hard things are. Doesn't make them light. Maya let out a tired breath. If this goes wrong, they don't just fire me. They build a criminal case around that locker. Then don't let it go wrong. She almost smiled. That your legal advice? That's father advice. Legal advice costs more. For the first time all day, Maya's shoulders eased. After Isaiah left, she washed the dishes, dried them, and turned off every light except the lamp over the table. Then, she opened her notebook and wrote down the performance she needed to give tomorrow. Quiet, tired, withdrawn, no arguments, no anger. She stared at the words until they stopped feeling like surrender and started feeling like strategy. Her phone buzzed at 9:41. Unknown number. Resignation would be the smartest thing you've done since you got here. Maya read it twice. Then she forwarded a screenshot to Hale's number without comment. His reply came 3 minutes later. Good. Let them get comfortable. Maya placed the phone face down and looked at the unsigned resignation draft. Across town, Callahan was laughing in the break room. At her table, Maya picked up her pen and wrote one more line in her notebook. Comfort makes liars careless. 3 days later, Maya walked into Rivergate Police Department through the front entrance instead of the employee lot. That was the first humiliation. Visitors used the front entrance. Citizens filing complaints used the front entrance. People without access cards used the front entrance. Maya stood at the security desk in a dark blazer, plain blouse, and black slacks, while the officer behind the counter checked her name against a printed list. He was young, maybe 25, and he did not know where to put his eyes. "Officer Williams," he said, then corrected himself. "Miss Williams. They're expecting you in conference room A." Maya looked at him. He flushed. "Sorry." She accepted the visitor badge without comment and clipped it to her blazer. The plastic felt cheap against her chest, not heavy like a badge, not familiar, just temporary. As she walked through the lobby, conversations thinned. Officers at the front desk watched her pass. A records clerk lowered her voice mid-sentence. Someone near the vending machines turned his shoulders away, as if the sight of her might require a decision. Maya kept walking. Conference room A sat at the end of the administrative hall, the same hall where framed photographs of retired commanders lined the wall, mostly older white men. A few women, one black captain from the late 1990s whose picture hung near the corner, almost hidden behind a standing flag. Maya paused at that photograph for half a second. Then she entered the room. The long table was already half full. Sergeant Ron Whitaker sat near the head, clean uniform, polished shoes, face settled into official patience. Captain Diane Morrison sat to his right, with a thick folder in front of her and a pen placed squarely on top. Brett Callahan leaned back 2 chairs down, one ankle crossed over his knee, looking more relaxed than a man under review should have looked. Kyle Mercer sat beside him, tapping 2 fingers against his coffee cup until Whitaker gave him a look. At the far end sat a city attorney, a union representative, an internal security investigator, and a woman from evidence control whom Maya had never met. Dan Reeves sat against the wall with 3 other officers who had been listed as witnesses. He stared at the floor. Elena Cruz was there too. She sat on the witness side, hands clasped tightly in her lap. When Maya entered, Cruz lifted her eyes. There was guilt in them, fear too, but she did not look away. Deputy Chief Raymond Hale stood near the screen at the front of the room, speaking quietly to a legal aide. He did not greet Maya with warmth. He simply nodded once. That was enough. Maya took the chair assigned to her. In front of her sat a folder, a bottle of water, and a clear evidence pouch containing her badge. The sight of it hit harder than she expected. The badge lay face up under plastic, stripped of use, stripped of meaning, waiting for other people to decide what kind of officer she had been. Maya folded her hands on the table. The city attorney began. "This administrative hearing concerns Officer Maya Williams, currently on leave pending investigation into recovered department evidence found in her assigned locker, as well as prior allegations of misconduct involving Officer Brett Callahan and Officer Kyle Mercer." Callahan lowered his eyes as if bored. The attorney continued. "This is not a criminal trial. However, information obtained here may be referred for further review if appropriate." Whitaker nodded solemnly. Morrison wrote something in her folder. Hale remained standing, expression unreadable. The union representative for Callahan spoke first. His name was Thomas Greer, a heavy-set man in his 60s with silver hair and the slow confidence of someone used to making bad facts sound procedural. "Before we begin," Greer said, "I want it noted that Officer Callahan has fully cooperated with this internal process. He has served this department for 12 years. His record reflects strong field performance, multiple commendations, and long-standing trust among his peers." Maya did not move. Greer turned a page. By contrast, Officer Williams arrived at Rivergate and within days became involved in multiple incidents. A physical altercation in the main hallway, a disputed report involving alleged radio failure, unauthorized interest in old evidence files, and finally, department property recovered from her locker. He let the words settle. Recovered, not planted. Property, not trap. Maya watched his mouth shape the version they wanted the room to keep. Greer glanced at her. "We believe Officer Williams entered this department with an agenda. When she failed to find support for that agenda, her behavior became increasingly erratic. Hale said nothing. The city attorney looked toward Maya. "Officer Williams, you will have an opportunity to respond." Maya nodded. "Understood." Callahan smiled faintly. Greer called Mercer first. Mercer stood, adjusted his belt, and took the chair at the side of the room. He avoided looking at Maya until the union representative asked him directly what happened on Maya's first day. "She came in tense," Mercer said. "Like she already had a problem with everybody." Greer nodded. "Did Officer Callahan threaten her?" "Not that I saw." Maya's eyes stayed on Mercer. "Did Officer Williams use force?" "Yes." "Describe it." Mercer swallowed. "She struck Officer Callahan with her knee, then grabbed my wrist when I tried to step in." "Did you feel threatened?" Mercer hesitated. "Yes." Greer let that word hang. Maya did not react. The city attorney made a note. Next came the riverfront call. Mercer said radio reception in the East Corridor had always been unreliable. He said, "Backup arrived as soon as practical." He said, Maya seemed irritated and began writing notes, like she was building a complaint. Callahan watched her as Mercer spoke, waiting. Maya gave him nothing. Then Morrison was asked to speak. She opened her folder slowly. "Officer Williams came to me after the hallway incident. I advised her to document her concerns through proper channels. I tried to provide support." Her voice sounded steady, professional, almost kind. Greer asked, "Did Officer Williams appear emotionally affected?" Morrison paused. She was controlled, but guarded. "Did she express distrust toward members of this department?" She raised concerns quickly. "Did that concern you?" Morrison looked down at her notes. "It did." Maya felt the room shift. Subtle, quiet. Morrison had not accused her outright. She did not need to. She was painting Maya as a problem with careful brushstrokes. Then Morrison produced the email, the one Maya had sent on purpose. The city attorney read it aloud. "Given the seriousness of today's events and the damage this has caused to the department, I am considering whether resignation may be the best way to prevent further disruption." A murmur moved through the room. Callahan leaned back farther. Greer turned toward Maya. "That sounds like a woman who understood the gravity of what was found in her locker." Maya looked at him. "It sounds like a woman under pressure." Greer lifted his eyebrows. "Pressure from her own decisions?" Maya did not answer. Hale finally spoke. "Counselor, questions should remain questions." Greer smiled politely. "Of course, Deputy Chief." The internal security investigator reviewed the locker search next. He described the sealed evidence bag, the cash envelope, the archived property number, the photographs, the paperwork. His voice was flat. He had no emotion in the matter, which made his testimony more damaging. Facts without context could still cut. When he finished, Whitaker folded his hands. "I want to say this clearly," Whitaker said. "No one in this department wanted this outcome. Officer Williams came to us with a strong file, but evidence was found where evidence should never be. We had an obligation to act." Maya looked at him. His face gave her nothing. Callahan's did. He looked pleased now. Not openly. He was too careful for that in front of Hale, but his jaw had loosened. His shoulders had settled. He believed the room was his again. The city attorney turned to Maya. "Officer Williams, would you like to make an opening response before Deputy Chief Hale proceeds?" Every eye shifted to her. Cruz looked tense. Reeves stopped staring at the floor. Morrison held her pen above the page. Callahan watched like he was waiting for her voice to crack. Maya looked at the badge in the clear pouch. Then she lifted her eyes. "No," she said. The room stilled. Greer blinked. "No?" Maya's voice remained calm. "Not yet." Callahan's smile returned. To him, her silence looked like surrender. Hale closed the folder in his hand and stepped toward the screen. "Then I have a few questions," he said. Hale did not turn on the screen right away. He walked to the end of the table and placed one hand on the back of an empty chair. His eyes moved from Whitaker to Morrison, then to Callahan, Mercer, and finally the internal security investigator. "Before we discuss the locker," Hale said, "I want to return to the first reported incident involving Officer Williams." Greer leaned back. "Deputy Chief, the hallway incident has already been addressed." "No," Hale said. "It has been described. That is not the same thing. Callahan's face tightened. Hale looked at Mercer. Officer Mercer, you testified that Officer Williams struck Officer Callahan without sufficient cause. Mercer cleared his throat. That's what I saw. You were standing behind Officer Callahan? Yes. How far? Maybe 6 feet. Close enough to hear what was said? Some of it. Some? Mercer shifted in his chair. It was a hallway. People were talking. Hale nodded once. Did you hear Officer Callahan tell Officer Williams she needed to learn her place? Mercer's fingers stopped moving around his coffee cup. I don't remember the exact words. You don't remember? No, sir. Hale turned to Callahan. Officer Callahan, did you say those words? Callahan sat straighter. I may have said something about her being new and needing to understand how Rivergate works. Did you slap her? Greer sat forward. Deputy Chief, my client has not admitted to assaulting anyone. Hale did not look at him. Officer Callahan can answer. Callahan glanced at Greer, then back at Hale. There was contact. It was not what she's making it out to be. Maya watched him from across the table. His voice was steady, but his right hand had closed into a fist against his thigh. Hale turned to Morrison. Captain Morrison, when you entered the hallway, what did you observe? Morrison took a measured breath. I observed tension between officers. Officer Callahan was near the wall. Officer Williams appeared composed. Officer Mercer was nearby. Did anyone appear injured? No. Did Officer Williams appear out of control? Morrison paused. No. But she had clearly been involved in a physical exchange. Did you ask the witnesses what happened? I cleared the hallway first. Did you order the hallway footage preserved? I intended to review it. That is not what I asked. Morrison's jaw tightened. Not immediately. Hale let the answer sit. Callahan's expression changed by a fraction. He did not like where the questions were going. Hale picked up a small remote from the table. For the record, this footage was retrieved from the hallway camera near the records counter. The original file came from the station server, with timestamp verification from City IT. It was not provided by Officer Williams. Morrison looked up sharply. Whitaker's shoulders stiffened. Hale turned on the screen. The room darkened slightly as the video appeared. The angle was high and wide, aimed down the main hallway. There was no sound at first. Officers moved through the frame, then slowed as Callahan stepped into Maya's path. Maya sat motionless at the table, but she felt her own heartbeat shift. On the screen, Callahan leaned toward her. Hale pressed another button. Audio came through, faint but clear enough. You must be new here, so you probably don't know the rules. Let me teach you. Then the slap. No one in the room moved. The sound was smaller through the speakers than it had been in the hallway, but it carried enough weight to change every face around the table. Cruz lowered her eyes. Dan Reeves stared at the screen, his mouth set tight. Morrison's pen slipped from her fingers and rolled once before stopping against her folder. The video showed Maya turning with the impact. It showed Callahan stepping closer. It showed him raising his hand again. Then Maya moved. Her knee came up short and controlled. Callahan's leg dipped. His shoulder touched the wall. Mercer lunged in. Maya caught his wrist, stopped him, held him for a breath, and released him. Hale paused the video with Maya standing centered, hands lowered, Callahan against the wall, Mercer backing off. He looked at Mercer. Is this the moment you described as Officer Williams attacking without cause? Mercer did not answer. Officer Mercer. Mercer swallowed. The video doesn't show everything. It shows the slap. Mercer's face reddened. Yes. It shows Officer Callahan raising his hand a second time. Yes. It shows Officer Williams using a controlled defensive technique after that second movement. Mercer looked toward Callahan. Hale's voice sharpened. Do not look at him. Answer the question. Mercer looked back down. Yes. Hale turned to Callahan. Officer Callahan, you described this as her becoming aggressive. Callahan leaned forward. She struck me. After you slapped her, I was making a point. A silence fell so hard that even Greer looked at him. Callahan realized the words too late. Hale repeated them calmly. You were making a point. Callahan's mouth tightened. Greer spoke quickly. My client means there was a verbal disagreement that escalated. Hale kept his eyes on Callahan. The footage shows your hand crossing her face. It shows you closing distance afterward. It shows your hand rising again. It shows Officer Williams stopping the advance without continuing force. Is any part of that inaccurate? Callahan's face flushed. You're looking at one angle. It is a clear angle. It doesn't show what she was thinking. No, Hale said. It shows what you did. Maya looked at the table. She did not smile. She did not look at Callahan. The truth on the screen was enough. She did not need to dress it with emotion. Hale resumed the video. Morrison entered the frame seconds later. She dispersed the hallway, then led Maya toward her office. Callahan remained behind with Mercer. His face on the screen was easy to read now. Anger, humiliation, calculation. Hale stopped the footage. Captain Morrison, he said, after viewing this, do you still characterize the incident as a mutual physical exchange? Morrison's lips parted slightly. She looked at the screen, then at Maya, then back at Hale. I would characterize it differently with the benefit of the footage. With the benefit of the truth, Hale said. Morrison did not respond. Whitaker shifted in his chair. Deputy Chief, while the footage may clarify the hallway matter, it does not explain department evidence recovered from Officer Williams's locker. Hale turned off the screen. No, he said. It explains why Officer Callahan needed Officer Williams discredited. Callahan scoffed. That's a leap. Hale looked at him. Then you should have no concern about the next set of records. Greer frowned. What records? Hale walked back to the table and opened another folder. The radio logs from Officer Williams's first field assignment at Rivergate, he said. Maya saw Mercer's face change before anyone else noticed. The confidence drained from his eyes first, then from his mouth, then from his shoulders. Callahan saw it too. For the first time since the hearing began, he looked genuinely worried. Hale laid 3 printed sheets on the table, each one marked with a city IT stamp. These are not handwritten notes, he said. These are system records from dispatch, patrol GPS, and radio channel activity for Officer Williams's first field assignment after the hallway incident. Greer leaned forward. Deputy Chief, I need to object to the way this is being introduced. My client has not had time to review. You'll have time, Hale said. Right now, I'm asking questions. He looked at Mercer first. Officer Mercer, you testified that radio reception in the East River corridor is unreliable. Mercer shifted in his chair. It can be, or was. It was that morning. Hale placed one finger on the top sheet. The radio assigned to Officer Williams was active when she left the precinct. It connected properly twice before the warehouse call. At 8:47 a.m., 3 minutes after she arrived on Kellerman Street, her unit was manually switched from the primary patrol channel to a secondary channel not monitored by her assigned backup. The room went quiet again. Mercer looked at the paper, then at Callahan. Hale's voice cut through the movement. Officer Mercer, I told you once already not to look at him before answering. Mercer faced forward. I don't know anything about that. You were logged into the mobile terminal in Unit 12. I was riding with Reeves. Officer Reeves was driving. You were logged in. Hale turned one page. The channel change was entered from Unit 12. Reeves, seated against the wall, lifted his head. Mercer's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Hale looked at Reeves. Officer Reeves, did you authorize a radio channel change for Officer Williams's unit? Reeves swallowed. His hands were folded tightly in his lap. No, sir. Did you know one was made? No, sir. Did Officer Mercer use the terminal during that call? Reeves looked at Mercer, then quickly back to Hale. His face was pale now. Yes, sir. Mercer snapped. You don't know what I was doing. Reeves flinched, but did not look away this time. You had the screen open. Callahan sat very still. Hale moved to the next sheet. GPS logs show Unit 7, Officer Williams, arrived at 8:46. Unit 11, Officer Callahan, was less than half a mile away. Unit 12, Officers Mercer and Reeves, was approximately 7 blocks away. Backup arrived at 8:56, 10 minutes after Officer Williams called for support. Callahan spoke before Greer could stop him. She handled the call. Hale turned to him. That is not the issue. It was a verbal dispute. 3 adults, No injuries, no arrests. That is also not the issue. Then what is? Hale held his stare. The issue is whether backup was delayed intentionally after her radio access was disrupted. Callahan laughed once, short and dry. You're making a routine call sound like a conspiracy. Maya watched Hale. He did not react to the word. He let Callahan spend it. Then he turned to Mercer. Did Officer Callahan instruct you to delay response? No. Did he instruct you to change Officer Williams's radio channel? No. Did anyone? No. Hale nodded. Then we'll move to the locker. Mercer's face tightened so quickly that Morrison looked at him. Hale placed a new folder on the table. The department evidence found in Officer Williams's locker was tagged under an archived property number from a case closed 14 months earlier. That property number was accessed the night before the locker search. Whitaker folded his arms. Evidence. Supervisors. Access archived numbers. All the time. Correct, Hale said. That is why I requested the access log. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. Hale continued. The property number was accessed at 9:18 p.m. from Sergeant Whitaker's credentials. Whitaker gave a controlled shrug. My credentials are used for supervisory review. By you? Usually. That night? I don't recall. Hale looked at the evidence control representative. Miss Lang, do evidence supervisors share credentials? The woman sat straighter. She looked uncomfortable but answered clearly. No, sir. That violates policy. Whitaker gave her a cold look. She lowered her eyes, but did not take back the answer. Hale turned to the screen again. Now, the main hallway camera near the locker room went offline for 17 minutes before the search. That would be a problem if it were the only camera. Callahan's jaw tightened. Hale clicked the remote. A still image appeared. It was grainy and angled from the break room door glass. The reflection showed part of the locker room entrance and a section of the hall. At 6:12 a.m., Hale said, someone entered the locker area before inspection was announced. The image was not clear enough to show a face. Greer spoke immediately. That could be anyone. It could, Hale said. He clicked again. The image enlarged. A keyring hung from the person's belt. A rectangular leather fob swung beside it. The shoes had a bright reflective strip along the outer heel. Hale looked at Mercer. Do those keys belong to you? Mercer stared at the screen. A lot of officers have keys. And the shoes? No answer. Hale placed a photograph beside the printed logs. It showed Mercer seated earlier in the hearing, the same shoes visible beneath the table. Maya heard Cruz draw in a small breath. Mercer's face went red. That doesn't prove I put anything anywhere. No, Hale said. It proves you were in the area after telling investigators you had not entered the locker room before the search. Mercer looked toward Whitaker. This time Hale did not stop him. Whitaker's expression did not change, but his right hand had tightened on the arm of his chair. Hale clicked again. The screen went black. Then a waveform appeared. Before I play this, Hale said, let the record show this audio was obtained legally during an active internal affairs inquiry after Officer Williams was placed on leave. All parties were within a department-controlled area where notice of recording is posted. Callahan sat forward. What audio? Hale pressed play. Callahan's own voice filled the room. She's done. The resignation scared her more than the locker did. Mercer's voice followed, thinner, nervous. That bag better not come back on me. Then Callahan again. Relax. Whitaker pulled the old case number. Morrison kept us ahead of every move she made. The room did not just go silent. It locked. Morrison's face drained of color. Whitaker looked at the table. Mercer gripped the edge of his chair. Callahan stared at the speaker like he could force the words back inside it. Hale let the recording end before he spoke. Officer Mercer, he said. What bag were you referring to? Mercer's lips moved once. No sound came. Hale looked at Callahan. What resignation? Callahan's voice came out rough. That's taken out of context. What old case number? Greer put a hand on Callahan's arm. Do not answer. Hale turned to Whitaker. Why would Officer Callahan believe you pulled an old case number? Whitaker's face hardened. I won't respond to that without counsel. Understood. Hale looked at Morrison last. And Captain Morrison, he said. Why would Officer Callahan say you kept them ahead of every move she made? Morrison sat very straight, her lips parted, then closed. For the first time since Maya had met her, Morrison looked less like a captain and more like a person who had run out of practiced answers. Maya did not look away from her, not with anger, not with triumph, only with the steady attention of someone who had finally watched the right door open. Greer pushed back from the table. This hearing needs to pause. Hale looked at the city attorney. The attorney's face was grave. No, she said. It needs to continue. Mercer turned toward Callahan, panic rising now. Brett, Callahan snapped. Shut up. The word landed badly. Everyone heard it. Hale closed the folder in front of him. We are no longer discussing whether Officer Williams mishandled evidence, he said. We are discussing whether evidence was used to frame her. Whitaker stood abruptly. This is outrageous. Hale did not raise his voice. Sit down, Sergeant. Whitaker remained standing. Two internal affairs investigators near the door stepped closer. Whitaker looked at them, then slowly lowered himself back into the chair. Maya's badge still lay in the clear pouch on the table. For the first time that morning, the plastic around it no longer looked like a verdict. It looked like evidence waiting to be returned. Hale turned to the city attorney. I'm requesting permission to expand the scope of this hearing to include possible obstruction, evidence tampering, and misuse of internal information. Why? The city attorney looked at the audio transcript in front of her, then at Morrison, Whitaker, Callahan, and Mercer. Her face had lost all patience. Granted, she said. Continue. Morrison sat very still. Maya watched her hands. They were folded over the navy folder, but the fingertips were pale from pressure. The same folder she had used to collect Maya's notes. The same careful, quiet folder that had looked like protection on the first day. Hale picked up a new packet. Captain Morrison, he said. Let's discuss communication records. Morrison's eyes lifted. I want counsel present before answering further questions. You may request counsel before making statements about your own conduct. For now, I'm presenting records. He clicked the remote. A list of call logs appeared on the screen. Morrison to Whitaker. 4:18 p.m. Day 1. Morrison to Whitaker. 7:02 a.m. Day 2. Morrison to Whitaker. 12:44 p.m. Same day. Morrison to Whitaker. 9:13 p.m. The night before the locker search. Hale turned slightly so everyone could see both the screen and Morrison's face. Each call occurred within minutes of a private conversation between Captain Morrison and Officer Williams. He said, after the first call, Officer Callahan knew Officer Williams had documented the hallway incident. After the second, the radio logs she asked about became restricted. After the third, Officer Callahan referenced a false case number that Officer Williams had given only to Captain Morrison. After the fourth, the locker search was authorized the following morning. Morrison's lips tightened. Whitaker said, those calls could have been about anything. Hale looked at him. Then you should be eager to explain them. Whitaker said nothing. Hale clicked again. Emails appeared. Not long ones. Short, careful messages. Subject lines with no names. Attachments. Labeled routine notes. Staffing issue. Williams' concern. Morrison stared at the screen. You forwarded her notes, Hale said. Morrison's voice came out controlled. I shared information with a supervising sergeant. You shared a complaint from a subordinate with the sergeant, suspected of protecting the officer she complained about. I was trying to manage a volatile situation. Maya finally spoke. No, she said. You were managing me. Everyone looked at her. Maya kept her eyes on Morrison. You told me to write down the truth. You told me to give it to you so it wouldn't disappear. Then you handed it to the people making it disappear. Morrison's face shifted. Not much. Enough. I was protecting the department, Morrison said. Maya leaned forward slightly. Her voice stayed calm, but every word landed clean. You didn't protect the department. You protected the lie. No one interrupted. Morrison looked down first. Hale let the silence hold, then moved on. This is bigger than Officer Williams, he said. The locker incident appears to be one act in a larger pattern. He nodded to the legal aid near the door. The door opened. Marcus Reed stepped in. He was 29, tall, clean-shaven, wearing a dark suit that looked recently pressed but not expensive. He paused when he saw the room. His eyes moved to Callahan, then Mercer, then Whitaker. His jaw tightened, but he kept walking. Cruz looked at him with open guilt. Marcus took the witness chair. The city attorney asked him to state his name. Marcus Reed. Former position? Police officer. Rivergate Police Department. Hale stood beside the table. Mr. Reed, why did you leave Rivergate? Marcus glanced once at Maya. Then he looked at Hale. Because I asked where the money went, Callahan muttered. Here we go. Hale turned his head. You'll have your chance to respond. Callahan leaned back, but his confidence was thinner now. Marcus continued. There was a cash seizure from a riverfront gambling call. I was not primary, but I saw the field count. Later, the final evidence intake showed less. I asked about it. First, they told me I must have read it wrong. Then they told me to stop making problems. Who told you that? Sergeant Whitaker. Whitaker's face stayed hard. Marcus looked at Callahan. Officer Callahan was primary. Officer Mercer backed the report. Mercer shifted in his chair. What happened after you asked questions? Hale asked. My radio failed during a call 2 weeks later. Backup came late. After that, small complaints started appearing in my file. Attitude, poor teamwork, not fitting unit culture. I filed a complaint. Against whom? Callahan and Whitaker. And what happened to that complaint? It disappeared. Hale placed a document on the screen. Is this a copy? Marcus looked at it. Yes. Who kept it? Marcus turned toward Cruz. Elena Deed. Cruz closed her eyes for a second. Hale called her next. Cruz walked to the chair slowly. Her hands were shaking, so she folded them together. Officer Cruz, Hale said. Did you keep copies of Marcus Reed's complaint and related evidence logs? Yes, sir. Why? Her voice caught once. She swallowed and forced it steady. Because I knew what was happening was wrong. Why didn't you come forward then? Cruz looked at Marcus. Because I was scared. Marcus did not look angry. That seemed to hurt her more. Cruz turned back to Hale. I watched him get isolated. I watched people stop talking when he entered rooms. I watched his record change, and I did nothing. Her eyes moved to Maya. Then it started happening again. Hale nodded. What pattern did you observe? Cruz took a breath. When Callahan was involved in cash or evidence cases, the final numbers didn't always match the first field records. Camera gaps happened near evidence transfer times. Complaints were routed to Sergeant Whitaker. They closed fast. If someone pushed, Captain Morrison seemed to know before anyone else should. Morrison looked away. Hale placed a chart on the screen. 5 cases, dates, amounts, officers, camera issues, complaint outcomes. The room studied it. The pattern was simple enough that no speech was needed. Callahan present, Mercer supporting, Whitaker approving. Morrison informed. Money reduced. Evidence delayed. Camera unavailable. Complaint closed. Officer discredited. The city attorney's face hardened with each line. Greer spoke carefully now. Deputy Chief, patterns are not proof of theft. No, Hale said. But patterns explain motive. They explain why Officer Williams became a threat the moment she started documenting. Callahan's chair scraped back. This is garbage. The internal affairs investigators near the door moved immediately. Callahan raised both hands, palms out. I'm sitting. He sat, but the mask was gone. His face was red, his eyes sharp with panic he could no longer cover. Hale looked at him. Officer Callahan, Mr. Reed asked about missing cash and was pushed out. Officer Williams asked about you, radio logs, and evidence records, then had archived evidence appear in her locker. Are you claiming that is coincidence? Callahan's mouth opened. Greer touched his arm. Don't answer. Whitaker turned to the city attorney. This has become a fishing expedition. The attorney looked at the chart. No, Sergeant. It has become a referral. The word changed the room. Referral meant this would not stay internal. Referral meant prosecutors, warrants, interviews under caution. evidence beyond the reach of Rivergate's quiet hallways. Morrison shut her folder. The small sound drew Maya's eyes. For the first time, Morrison looked at her without the soft captain's mask. There was fear there now. Maybe regret too. But regret that arrived after exposure was not the same as conscience. Hale gathered the printed call logs, the email trail, the evidence chart, and Marcus Reed's complaint into one stack. This department did not fail Officer Williams by accident, he said. It failed her because several people needed her discredited. The evidence now suggests that what happened to her was planned, coordinated, and tied to prior misconduct. No one challenged him. Cruz wiped quickly beneath one eye. Marcus sat with his hands folded, breathing slowly, as if hearing the truth spoken aloud had taken years off him and put them back at the same time. Maya looked at the badge, still sealed in plastic. She did not reach for it. Not yet. Hale closed the folder. At this point, he said, the question is no longer whether Officer Williams should remain under suspicion. The question is who in this room helped put suspicion on her in the first place. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Callahan pushed his chair back and stood as if height alone could save him. This is insane, he said. You're taking the word of a bitter ex-cop, a scared officer, and a woman who came here looking for a reason to accuse somebody. Hale turned toward him slowly. Sit down. No. I'm done sitting here while she plays victim. Greer grabbed Callahan's sleeve. Brett, stop talking. Callahan pulled his arm free. No. You stop. All of you. She walked in here with clean hands and big eyes. And suddenly everybody's supposed to believe she's some kind of hero? She had evidence in her locker. Hale's voice stayed level. Evidence your own recorded conversation, connected to Mercer, Whitaker, and the old case number. You twisted that. You said it. Callahan's face tightened. Hale stepped closer to the table. You were not trapped by Officer Williams. You were exposed by your own confidence. The words landed cleanly. Mercer looked at Callahan, panic plain now. Brett, I told you we shouldn't have used the old file. Callahan snapped his head toward him. Shut up. Mercer's mouth stayed open. Then he turned to Hale. I didn't plan it. I didn't. He told me it was just to scare her into leaving. Whitaker said the number would be buried. Morrison said she was already talking about quitting. Morrison went pale. Kyle. Mercer pointed at her. Don't. You gave them her notes. You told them what she was asking about. Whitaker slammed one hand on the table. Enough. The two internal affairs investigators stepped forward. The city attorney stood. Deputy Chief Hale, based on what has been presented, I'm authorizing immediate referral for criminal review. Officers Callahan and Mercer, Sergeant Whitaker, you are to surrender your badges and department identification. Callahan laughed once, but there was no strength in it. You can't do this in a hearing. The city attorney looked at him coldly. We can, when the hearing reveals probable cause for obstruction, falsified statements, and evidence tampering. Whitaker stood slowly. His face had gone hard in a way that looked practiced, but his hands betrayed him. They were trembling just enough. This department is making a mistake, he said. Hale did not blink. This department already made one. Today it stops making the same one. One investigator approached Callahan. Another moved toward Mercer. A third stood beside Whitaker. Callahan looked around the room, searching for the old hallway, the old silence, the old permission. No one gave it to him. Not Greer, not Morrison, not Reeves, not even the officers who had once looked away when Maya was slapped. Badge, the investigator said. Callahan's jaw worked. For a moment, Maya thought he might refuse. Then he unclipped it and dropped it onto the table. The metal hit hard. Mercer removed his badge with shaking fingers. Whitaker hesitated longest. He looked at the badge in his palm, like it still belonged to him. Then he set it down without a word. The investigator turned Callahan around and placed cuffs on his wrists. Mercer followed, face drained of color. Whitaker was cuffed last. No one raised a voice. No one touched them with unnecessary force. That made it worse for them. There was no chaos to hide inside. Only procedure. The door opened. The sound from the hallway changed immediately. Dozens of officers had gathered outside, drawn by rumor, fear, and the long delay of the hearing. They stood along both sides of the administrative hall, and spilled into the main lobby. Callahan came out first. Every face turned. His badge was gone. His hands were behind his back. The man who had once owned the hallway now had to walk through it as a suspect. Mercer came behind him, eyes fixed on the floor. Then Whitaker. That was when the room truly shifted. The sergeant, who had controlled schedules, complaints, careers, and silence, was led past the duty desk, with no badge on his chest. Older officers stared. Younger ones stepped back. Someone near records whispered, "My God," then fell quiet. Maya stood at the conference room doorway. She did not smile. Callahan saw her as he passed. His face twisted with hate, but he said nothing. For once, he seemed to understand that every word now belonged to a record he could not control. Outside the front doors, a transport van waited at the curb. The three men were guided into it in full view of the department. No applause came, no celebration, only silence. But this silence was different from the one in the hallway on Maya's first day. That silence had protected Callahan. This one judged him. As the van doors closed, several officers lowered their eyes. Dan Reeves approached Maya, stopping a few feet away. He looked older than he had that morning. "I saw it," he said quietly. "The slap, the second hand, all of it." Maya held his gaze. "I should have said something," he added. "Yes," Maya said. Reeves nodded. The answer hurt him, but he accepted it. "I'm sorry." Maya did not absolve him. Not fully. Some apologies needed time to become worth anything. "Then say it right the next time," she said. He looked down. "I will." Morrison remained inside the conference room. She had not been cuffed, but two city officials stood near her now. Her command authority was suspended on the spot. She looked once toward Maya through the open door, as if searching for a final word. Maya gave her none. A few days later, the formal letter arrived. Maya Williams was cleared of wrongdoing. The allegation involving the locker was withdrawn. The proposed criminal referral against her was canceled. Her administrative leave was reversed. Her pay would be restored. Her file would show that she had assisted in exposing serious misconduct within Rivergate Police Department. She read the letter twice at her kitchen table, while Isaiah sat across from her with 2 cups of coffee between them. "You going back?" he asked. Maya folded the letter carefully. "Yes." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on her face. "Because you want to?" "Because leaving now lets them keep too much of the story." Isaiah smiled faintly. "That's my girl." When Deputy Chief Hale returned her badge, he did it in a small room, not a ceremony. Cruz stood beside Maya. Marcus Reed was there too, at Hale's request. Hale placed the badge on the table. "Officer Williams," he said. "This should not have been this hard." Maya picked it up. The metal felt heavier than before. "Make sure no one else has to prove the truth this hard," she said. Hale nodded. "We're already changing the policy." 3 months later, Rivergate looked the same from the street, but inside, some things had changed. Evidence transfers required 2 independent confirmations. Radio logs could no longer be altered by patrol supervisors. Complaints involving discrimination or retaliation went directly to outside review. Camera outages triggered automatic alerts. Witnesses could give protected statements before command staff touched the file. Maya stood in the precinct gym with a group of adult officers newly assigned to the unit. Cruz stood beside her, holding a training pad. On the wall behind them was a new sign. "Integrity is not loyalty to silence. Integrity is loyalty to the truth." Maya faced the room. "Strength is not how hard you strike," she said. "Strength is knowing exactly when to stop and still refusing to bow to a lie." After training, she walked alone down the main hallway. The same hallway. She stopped near the spot where Callahan had slapped her. For a moment, she saw it again. The faces, the silence, the raised hand, the choice to stay calm. Then her radio crackled. "Unit 7. Do you copy?" Maya touched the button at her shoulder. "Unit 7. Copies." This time, the answer came back clear. The lesson from Maya Williams' story is simple, but powerful. Silence can protect the wrong people, but truth, when held with courage, can still break through. Justice does not always come quickly. And it does not always come gently. Sometimes it arrives late, after pain, after doubt, after everyone else has looked away. But when one person refuses to bow to a lie, that courage can open the door for others to stand a little taller. Thank you for listening to this story until the very end. I truly appreciate your time, your attention, and your support. If you have any thoughts about the way this story was told, please leave your feedback. Your comments help this channel improve and bring you better stories in the future. And if you have a powerful, meaningful, or true-to-life story you would like to share, please send it to the channel. Your story might inspire someone, comfort someone, or remind someone out there that they are not alone. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.